August 9th, 1877. The North Fork of the Big Hole River, Montana Territory. Before the sun has breached the jagged teeth of the eastern mountains, the world exists only in shades of charcoal, slate, and the deep, bruised purple of a pre-dawn sky. A mist, thick as beaver felt, clings to the river, muffling the world in a damp, cold silence. It coils around the conical shapes of over 80 tipis of the Nez Perce, the Nimipu, the people, who believe they have finally outrun the relentless blue-coated soldiers of the United States Army. Here, in this high mountain valley they call Iskumtselalik Pa, the place of the ground squirrels, there is a fragile sense of peace. The air smells of pine resin, damp earth, and the faint, ghostly scent of yesterday's cook fires. Inside one of these lodges, a young man named Weyekin, his name meaning spirit power, lies wrapped in a buffalo robe. He is 19 summers old, lean and hard from 1,000 miles of relentless travel. And in his sleep, he dreams not of war, but of the Wallowa Valley, of green grass that sweeps up to the sky, and the shimmer of the lake that shares the name of his people. The dream is shattered by a sound that does not belong. It is not the gentle murmur of the river or the nicker of a horse. It is a sharp, metallic crack, a branch snapping under a heavy, careless boot. Weyekin is awake in an instant, his heart a frantic drum against his ribs. The stillness of the camp is no longer peaceful. It is heavy, pregnant with a terrible waiting. His father, a warrior named 2 Moons, is already moving, a shadow within the deeper shadows of the teepee. He pulls on his leggings, his movements swift and silent, his face a mask of hardened granite in the gloom. He doesn't need to speak. The urgency is a living thing in the small space, a current of cold air that has nothing to do with the morning chill. Weyekin can hear it now, a soft, rhythmic shuffling from beyond the hide walls, the sound of hundreds of men trying and failing to be silent, the scuff of leather, the clink of a canteen against a rifle barrel, the strained whisper carried on the mist. You can feel the pressure of their presence, a physical weight pushing in on the sleeping camp. Weyekin scrambles for his own gear. His hands, slick with a sudden cold sweat, find the familiar worn leather of his ammunition belt. He slings it over his shoulder, the brass cartridges heavy and real. He grabs his rifle, a Winchester Model 1873, its lever action smooth and well-oiled, a comfort in his grasp. The air outside the teepee is now cut by a single, sharp command in a language he knows only from battle. A bugle, shrill and merciless, slices through the dawn and the world explodes. The first volley sounds like the sky itself is being torn apart. A hailstorm of lead rips through the canvas and hide lodges, the bullets making a sound like a giant's fist punching through taut cloth. Whump, thwip, whump. The peaceful quiet is replaced by a cacophony of splintering lodgepoles, the high, terrified screams of women and children, the guttural shouts of men, and the unending, deafening roar of rifle fire. It is not a battle, it is a slaughter. Weyekin bursts through the teepee flap, 2 Moons just ahead of him. The scene is a waking nightmare rendered in the gray, flat light of dawn. The mist is now streaked with gun smoke, a foul, acrid fog that stings the eyes and chokes the lungs. Blue-clad soldiers, their faces pale and grim, are swarming from the willows along the riverbank, advancing in a ragged line, firing as they come. They are already among the lodges, their Springfield rifles belching fire and smoke. A woman runs from a teepee, a baby clutched in her arms, and she is cut down, her cry dissolving into the thunder of the guns. An old man, his face a mask of disbelief, stumbles out into the open, raising a hand as if to ward off the bullets, and he too collapses into a heap of buckskin and gray hair. Weyekin feels a surge of fury so hot it burns away his fear. He drops to one knee beside his father, brings the Winchester to his shoulder, the cold metal of the stock, a familiar anchor in the chaos. He finds a soldier in his sights, a man with a thick blonde mustache, his face contorted in a yell, and squeezes the trigger. The rifle bucks against his shoulder, and the soldier spins and falls. There is no satisfaction, only a grim mechanical necessity. The air is thick with blood and gunpowder. The ground is littered with the dead and dying, their bodies tangled with smoldering blankets and shattered cooking pots. The soldiers are merciless, shooting into the teepees at anything that moves. This is Colonel John Gibbon's command, veterans of the Civil War, and they have come to break the Nez Perce. But the warriors, caught by surprise, are beginning to rally. Men are fighting back with whatever they have, rifles, bows, even war clubs. From the far side of the camp, the war cries of Looking Glass and Whitebird rise above the din, a defiant roar of resistance. Two Moons shoves Weyekin's shoulder. "The horses! We must get to the horses!" He points toward the north, where the tribe's vast herd was grazing, now a churning, panicked sea of animal terror. The horses are their only hope, their only means of escape, the legs that have carried them over the mountains and away from General Howard's army. Weyekin understands. To be a Nez Perce warrior without a horse is to be a man with no legs. He breaks into a run, his moccasins silent on the dew-soaked grass. He weaves between burning lodges and the bodies of his people. A bullet sings past his ear, a vicious wasp. Another kicks up a spray of dirt at his feet. He doesn't look back. The sounds of the massacre are seared into his mind, the shrieks of pain, the panicked whinnying of horses, the relentless rolling thunder of the soldiers' volley fire. He vaults over a fallen lodgepole, its hide cover riddled with holes like a sieve. He sees the faces of the soldiers, some young and frightened, others hardened and cruel. They are a blue wave, inexorable and deadly, washing over the camp. He focuses on a single point, the small rise beyond the last line of teepees, where he tethered his own mount, a magnificent Appaloosa stallion named Kala, Raven. He is his spirit, his other half, bred from the finest lines, his coat a storm of black spots on a field of white over his powerful hindquarters. If Kala is gone, a part of Weyekin will die here in the mud and blood of the big hole. He risks a glance behind him. His father, 2 Moons, is providing covering fire, kneeling beside the body of a fallen warrior, his face a grim study and concentration as he works the lever of his own rifle, trying to buy Weyekin and the others precious seconds. A small group of warriors has formed a desperate defensive line along the river, fighting to hold back the tide of soldiers and give the women and children time to flee into the hills. The courage of his people is a fire in his chest. They are outnumbered, outgunned, ambushed in their sleep, and yet they fight. They fight with the fury of a people defending their very existence. Weyekin pushes himself harder, his lungs burning, his legs pumping. The ground is slick with dew and blood. He can see the horse herd now, a maelstrom of terror. The animals are screaming, rearing, their eyes wide with panic as bullets tear into their ranks. Wranglers are trying to calm them, to drive them away from the fighting, but it is a hopeless task. The entire herd is on the verge of a stampede that will carry them miles away, lost to the tribe forever. But Kala is not with the main herd. Weyekin had tethered him apart, knowing the stallion's fiery spirit. He scrambles up the small rise, his eyes scanning the trees where he left him. And then he sees him. Kala is there, pulling against his rope, his nostrils flared, his powerful body trembling. He is not panicked, but enraged, a coiled spring of muscle and fury. A sense of profound relief washes over him, so powerful it almost buckles his knees. He calls out the horse's name, a sharp, clear cry that cuts through the chaos. The stallion's ears swivel, recognizing the voice of his master. He stops pulling and lets out a great shuddering snort, his eyes fixed on the approaching boy.
He fumbles with the knot of the rope, his fingers clumsy with adrenaline. The leather is wet and tight. Behind him, the sounds of the fighting grow closer. The soldiers have broken the warrior's first line. Their shouts are louder, their bullets striking the trees around him, showering him with bark and splinters. He has seconds, maybe less. The rope finally comes free, and Weyekin swings himself onto Kala's bare back in one fluid motion, a movement he has practiced thousands of times until it is as natural as breathing. The horse's skin is hot and slick with sweat. He gathers the single rein of the jaw rope, leaning forward, pressing his cheek against the stallion's powerful neck, whispering to him in the old words, words of calm, words of courage. Kala responds instantly, the trembling in his limbs replaced by a focused, surging power. He is ready. Weyekin looks back one last time at the inferno of the camp, at the smoke and the flashes of gunfire, a vision of hell on earth.
The world dissolves into a thundering, wind-whipped blur. Ka'ala is not merely running, he is a force of nature unleashed, a living arrow shot from the bow of the earth. The ground streams beneath them, a torrent of trampled grass, churned mud, and the dark, ominous shapes of fallen bodies. Weyekin lies low against the stallion's neck, his body moving in perfect sync with the horse's powerful, rhythmic gallop. The wind tears at his hair, a physical blow against his face, and the roar of it in his ears almost drowns out the cacophony of the battle behind him. He holds the Winchester in his right hand, its barrel pointed toward the sky, the stock braced against his hip. His left hand holds the single braided horsehair rein, but it is his legs, his knees, the subtle shifts of his weight that truly guide the stallion. They are two parts of a single being, a centaur born of desperation and defiance. Their goal is not to flee, not yet. First, they must break the back of the assault to create a path for the others. He sees them now, a knot of warriors, led by the formidable Alokit, fighting to regain a foothold on the western edge of the camp. They are pinned down by a line of soldiers who have taken cover in a shallow ravine, pouring a devastating fire into the Nez Perce position. Weyekin steers Ka'ala toward them, not directly, but in a wide, sweeping arc. To charge straight on would be suicide. Instead, he will use the one great advantage the Nimipu have, their unparalleled horsemanship. He becomes a fleeting, unpredictable target, a ghost on a storm-colored horse. A volley of shots erupts from the ravine, the bullets cracking the air around him. He feels the hot breath of one pass so close to his cheek it feels like a brand. Ka'ala does not flinch. He trusts his rider, as Weyekin trusts him. They are a partnership forged in the green valleys of their homeland and tempered in the fire of this long, bitter flight. Weyekin raises his rifle, and for a heart-stopping moment he releases the rein entirely. He steers Ka'ala with the pressure of his knees alone, a feat of balance and instinct honed since he was a small boy, barely able to walk. He levers a fresh round into the chamber, brings the rifle to his shoulder, and fires into the ravine. The shot is a snap decision, an intuitive calculation of speed, distance, and motion. He sees a puff of dust erupt from the edge of the gully, hears a cry. He doesn't know if he hit his mark, and there is no time to check. He works the lever again, firing, moving, firing again. He is a whirlwind of motion, a hornet buzzing at the edge of the soldiers' formation, too fast to track, too dangerous to ignore. His presence draws their fire, pulling it away from Alokit's pinned-down warriors. The soldiers, accustomed to fighting infantry in neat lines, are disoriented by this fluid, lightning-fast warfare. They see not a man on a horse, but some kind of savage apparition, a demon rider who seems to be everywhere at once. He wheels Ka'ala around a burning tipi, the heat scorching his skin. He sees a group of soldiers attempting to set fire to the remaining lodges,
to destroy what little the people have left. With a sharp cry, he charges. The stallion seems to understand his rider's intent, lowering his head, his ears flat against his skull, and lets out a furious, challenging scream. The soldiers turn, their faces a mixture of surprise and alarm. They raise their rifles, but they are too slow. Weyekin is on them in a matter of seconds. He doesn't fire his rifle, he uses it as a club, swinging the heavy wooden stock and steel barrel, knocking a rifle from one man's hands, striking another in the chest and sending him sprawling. Ka'ala, just as much a warrior as his rider, rears and lashes out with his front hooves, his iron-hard feet striking a soldier's shoulder with a sickening crunch. The small group breaks and scatters, their attack on the lodges forgotten. It is a small victory, a momentary reprieve, but it is enough. The tide of the battle, which had been a one-sided massacre, is beginning to turn. The Perce warriors, now armed and mounted, are launching counterattacks all across the valley. They are masters of this terrain, of this kind of mobile, lightning warfare. They strike and fade back into the mist and smoke, their war cries echoing from the hills. They are fighting with a cold, desperate fury, for their families, for their homes, for the very right to exist. Weyekin sees his father, 2 moons, now mounted, leading a charge to retake the northern part of the camp. He sees the war chief, Joseph, known more for his wisdom and diplomacy than his fighting, moving among the non-combatants, his presence a tower of calm strength, directing the women and children toward the safety of the dense thickets up the hillside. The chaos now has a purpose. The panicked rout has become an organized fighting retreat. Weyekin knows his role is over here. He has created a distraction, broken a charge, and brought precious moments. Now, survival is paramount. He is a target, a lone rider on a distinctive horse. He can see the officers now, pointing at him, shouting orders. A dedicated group of soldiers begins to peel away from the main fight, their attention focused solely on him. They are cavalrymen, moving to their own horses tethered behind the lines. They see their intent clearly. They mean to run him down. He turns Ka'ala westward, toward the open country, away from the river and the trees. It is a gamble. In the open, he will be an easy target, but it is also where Ka'ala's legendary speed can be used to its fullest. He gives the stallion his head, and the horse stretches out, his gallop lengthening into a ground-devouring run. The wind is a solid wall against him, and the world is reduced to the space between Ka'ala's pricked ears. Behind him, he hears the pounding of hooves, not the chaotic drumming of the stampeding herd, but the steady, disciplined rhythm of trained cavalry mounts. He doesn't need to look to know what is there. U.S. cavalry, the best horsemen the army has, mounted on strong, grain-fed horses chosen for stamina. There are 4 of them, maybe 5. He can feel their pursuit as a pressure on his back, a cold spot between his shoulder blades. The vast, empty valley floor stretches before him. The sun is higher now, a pale disk burning through the mist, casting long, distorted shadows across the landscape. The smoke from the battle hangs in the air, a gray pall over the green valley. The sounds of the main engagement are fading behind him, replaced by a more intimate and terrifying symphony. The thunder of Ka'ala's hooves, the rasp of his own breathing, and the steady, relentless drumbeat of the horses behind him. The chase is on. Weyekin glances back, a quick, practiced look over his shoulder. 4 riders. They are spread out in a loose formation, trying to flank him. They are armed with carbines, shorter, lighter rifles, ideal for use on horseback. Their faces are grim, determined. Their leader, an officer with a dark mustache and corporal stripes on his sleeve, is urging his bay horse onward, shouting at his men. Weyekin assesses the distance. They are perhaps 200 yards back.
but they are closing the gap. Their horses are fresh. Kaala has been running, fighting, and standing in terror since the first shots were fired. He can feel a slight tremor of fatigue in the stallion's powerful muscles. He cannot outrun them forever. The terrain offers no shelter, no ravines or thickets to lose them in. It is a race of pure speed and endurance, and the odds are not in his favor. He leans lower, whispering to Kaala, words of encouragement, promises of sweet grass and cool water. The horse responds with a surge of speed, his great heart pumping, his lungs working like bellows. The gap widens slightly, but Weyekin knows it is a temporary advantage bought at a high price in the stallion's precious energy. The soldiers are patient. They are trained for this. They will run him until his horse founders, until it stumbles and falls, and then they will close in for the kill. The sun is in his eyes now, a blinding glare that makes the landscape shimmer and dance. Sweat drips from his brow, stinging his eyes. His mouth is dry, filled with the taste of dust and fear, but underneath the fear is a cold, hard resolve. He is Nimipu. His ancestors were riding horses like this, fighting from their backs when the soldiers' grandfathers were still crossing the great water in slow ships. This horse, this land, this fight, it is in his blood. He will not be run down like a tired wolf. If they want him, they will have to pay a price in blood. He tightens his grip on the Winchester, his mind racing, calculating, searching for a way out of the trap that is closing around him. The pounding of the hooves behind him is a steady, menacing heartbeat, counting down the
As Kaala's hooves eat up the miles of Montana bunchgrass, the relentless rhythm of the gallop becomes a strange sort of drum, a percussive beat that transports Weyekin out of the immediate, desperate present. The wind rushing past his ears carries not just the sounds of the chase, but echoes from the past, whispers of a time before the bluecoats and the reservations, before the long retreat that had become his entire world. For a fleeting moment, the pursuing soldiers, the burning camp, the faces of the dead, they all recede, replaced by a memory so vivid it feels more real than the ground blurring beneath him. He is a boy again, 7 summers old, his legs so short they barely reach halfway down the sides of the old, patient mare he is riding. He is in the Wallowa Valley, his true home, a land of such profound beauty it seems to be the place where the Creator paused to rest. The sun is warm on his bare back, and the air smells of clover and sun-baked earth. His uncle, a man named Five Crows, rides beside him. Five Crows is not a war chief, but he is known throughout the bands as a master horseman, a man who could speak to horses in a language that went beyond words. He was a stern teacher, his face carved from dark wood, his eyes holding the wisdom of generations. To ride is not enough, Five Crows is saying, his voice a low rumble. A white man can learn to ride. He sits on the horse, he commands it, he is a burden the horse must carry. That is not our way. You are not on the horse, Weyekin. You are the horse. Its legs are your legs, its heart beats in your chest. Where you look, it will go. What you fear, it will feel. You are one mind, one spirit, one body. He gestures to the other boys, dozens of them, all bareback on their mounts, scattered across the wide meadow. This was their school, this field their classroom. They were not learning to read books, they were learning to read the language of the wind, the earth, and the horse. The training was relentless, a series of games that were in truth grueling exercises in balance, instinct, and trust. They would gallop at full speed, leaning down to snatch a feather from the ground without breaking stride. They would race through dense aspen groves, guiding their mounts through the treacherous maze of white trunks with only the pressure of their knees, their hands held high in the air.
They would stand on the backs of their cantering horses, learning to balance like circus performers, feeling the subtle shifts of muscle and bone beneath their feet. Five Crows would have them hang from the side of their horses while at a full gallop, first clinging to the mane, then holding on with only the grip of one heel hooked over the horse's spine, their bodies shielded from view, a classic warrior's technique for approaching an enemy unseen. "Your horse is your shield," Five Crows would explain. "Let the enemy's arrows find his hide before they find yours." It was a brutal form of trust. The slightest mistake, a moment of lost balance, would send a boy tumbling under the pounding hooves of the horses behind him. Broken bones were common, fear was a constant companion. But those who mastered it became something more than just boys. They became Nimupu horsemen. The memory shifts, and Weyekin is older now, perhaps 12. The game has changed. It is no longer about simple balance. It is about combat. The boys are armed with willow branch bows and arrows tipped with soft, blunted leather. The goal is to score a hit on another rider. It was a chaotic, swirling melee of dozens of young riders, a mock battle that taught the essential skills of fighting from a moving platform. Firing a bow from the back of a galloping horse is an art of immense difficulty. You cannot aim in the traditional sense. The world is a jumble of motion. You must learn to feel the shot, to release the arrow not at where the target is, but where it is going to be. It is a science of instinct, a deep intuitive understanding of time and movement. And the most difficult lesson of all was the one Five Crows drilled into them with punishing repetition. He would ride behind them, chasing them, and shout, "The enemy is not always in front of you. A warrior who can only fight what he sees is already dead." He forced them to learn to shoot behind them, not by turning their horses, which would cost precious speed and momentum, but by turning their own bodies in the saddle. At first, it seemed impossible. To twist your torso completely around, to draw a bow and aim, all while your lower body and your horse are rocketing forward, felt like trying to pat your head and rub your stomach while being thrown from a cliff. The strain on the core muscles was immense. The balance required was extraordinary. The first few attempts ended in ignominious falls, the boys tumbling into the dust to the laughter of their peers. Weyekin remembers the frustration, the burning shame, the ache in his back and stomach muscles that lasted for days. But Five Crows was relentless. "Again," he would shout, "your legs are the roots of the tree. They hold you to the earth, which is your horse. Your torso is the branch that can twist in the wind. Be the tree." Again. Slowly, painstakingly, they learned. They learned to anchor themselves with their thighs, to grip the sides of the horse with a pressure that was as strong as iron, yet fluid enough to move with the animal's stride. They learned to swivel at the hips, to isolate the movement of their upper body from their lower body. They practiced until the unnatural, contorted position became second nature. They would gallop away from a target, a buffalo hide stretched between two poles, and at a signal, twist and fire, sending their blunted arrows thudding into the hide behind them. At first, most missed entirely. Then they began to hit the hide. Then they began to hit the small circle painted in the center. It was a skill that became ingrained in their very muscle memory, a physical fluency that was as much a part of them as their own language. They did it with bows. When the traders came and the people acquired firearms, the warriors adapted the skill. A rifle was heavier, more cumbersome, its recoil a violent punch. But the principle was the same. The bond with the horse, the balance, the core strength, it was all the same foundation upon which this new skill was built. The memory dissolves, the warm Wallowa sun is replaced by the harsh, glaring light of the Montana Territory. The phantom voice of Five Crows fades, replaced by the sharp crack of a carbine.
A bullet buzzes past Weyekin's head, and the deadly reality of the present comes crashing back. The pursuing soldiers are closer now, dangerously close. The lead rider, the corporal, is less than 100 yards away. He is a good horseman, Weyekin can see that. He rides with a practiced, steady seat, his carbine held ready. He is not firing wildly. He is taking his time, waiting for a clear shot. Weyekin can feel Kala's breathing now, coming in deep, ragged bursts. The stallion is giving him everything he has, but his reserves are not infinite. The rich, grain-fed diet of the army horses gave them an edge in endurance that the grass-fed Perce ponies, magnificent as they were, could not always match in a long chase. Weyekin knows he may have a minute, 2 at most, before Kala's pace begins to falter, before the gap between pursuer and pursued closes for good. He cannot turn and fight. To stop would be to face 4 carbines at once. He cannot outrun them. The lessons of his youth, the harsh training under 5 crows, echo in his mind not as a distant memory, but as a clear, urgent instruction. The enemy is not always in front of you. A warrior who can only fight what he sees is already dead. He looks ahead at the empty, unforgiving plain. There is no help coming. There is no cover to be found. Everything, his life, the memory of his teachers, the honor of his people, have converged on this single, desperate moment. The choice is made. He will not do what the soldiers expect. He will not turn. He will not surrender. He will become the ghost his uncle taught him to be. He will be the tree with roots of iron, and he will let the storm break upon him. He takes a deep breath, settling himself on Kala's back, his legs tightening, his mind going calm and cold, entering that space of pure focus where thought and action become one. The chase is over. The fight is about to begin.
The world narrows to a razor's edge. For Weyekin, the vast Montana landscape, the distant, hazy line of the Sapphire Mountains, the endless expanse of sky, the shimmering grass, all of it ceases to exist. His reality is now a constricted tube of perception, containing only the pounding of his horse's heart, the burning in his own lungs, and the menacing rhythmic thunder of the 4 riders behind him. He can feel them. He doesn't need to see them to know their positions, to sense their intent. The lead rider, the corporal, is the point of the spear. The other 3 are fanned out, creating a net, ready to close in the moment he falters. They believe they have him. In their world, the world of military tactics and predictable outcomes, the chase has only one possible conclusion: a lone native on a tiring horse, run to ground by a superior, disciplined force. They are calculating the end of the race. Weyekin is calculating the beginning of the battle. He begins the subtle, almost imperceptible process of preparation. It starts with his connection to Kala. He shifts his weight, just slightly, a minute adjustment that travels from his hips, through his legs, and into the stallion's body. It's a signal, a silent communication that Kala understands not as a command, but as a shared intention. Steady. Keep this pace. Do not falter. The horse responds, his ears twitching, his stride remaining even despite the growing fatigue. Weyekin loosens his grip on the single rein, letting it lie against the stallion's neck. He will not need it. From this moment on, Kala will be guided by the language of the body, the intricate dance of balance and pressure that has been drilled into them both since birth. Weyekin's hands are now free. He needs them both for what comes next. He flexes his fingers, shaking off the tension, the numbness from gripping the rifle for so long. He takes a breath, a deep, centering pull of air that seems to draw strength from the earth itself, up through the body of his horse and into his own. He holds it for a moment, letting the world go silent in his mind. In this suspended second, he offers a silent prayer, not a plea for deliverance, but a statement of readiness. He is ready to meet whatever comes, to honor the ancestors who taught him these skills, to honor the horse that is carrying him, to honor the life that is his to defend. Then he exhales, and with the release of that breath, he acts. The movement is fluid, economical, and utterly baffling to the men who are watching him. He doesn't slow down, he doesn't look back. Instead, he begins to turn his upper body. It is a slow, deliberate corkscrew motion, beginning at his hips. His legs remain locked in place, his thighs like bands of steel clamped to Kala's sides, his knees pressed into the hollows behind the stallion's shoulders. They are the anchor, the pivot point, the unmoving root of the tree that Five Crows spoke of all those years ago. From the perspective of Corporal Thomas O'Malley, the lead pursuer, the sight is bizarre and inexplicable. He's a veteran of a dozen engagements on the plains. He's seen warriors fight with incredible bravery, charging headlong into rifle fire. He's seen them perform feats of horsemanship that seem to defy gravity. But he has never seen this. The Indian rider, who had been a straight-backed silhouette against the bright sky, is twisting around as if his spine were made of rope. O'Malley squints, his eyes watering from the wind. Is the man wounded? Is he having a seizure? It makes no sense. The rider's horse continues its desperate forward gallop, but the man himself is turning to face them, his legs still pointing forward. O'Malley feels a flicker of unease, a primal sense of wrongness. The natural order of things is being violated. A man cannot ride in two directions at once. Weyekin feels the pull in his stomach muscles, a familiar burning strain. He ignores it. He continues the turn, his left shoulder coming around, his right shoulder moving back. His world is now a strange, bifurcated reality. Half of his body is committed to the forward motion, feeling the horse, the wind, the direction of flight. The other half is now oriented to the rear, focused on the threat, the direction of the fight. He brings the Winchester rifle with him, its weight a heavy, awkward counterbalance. He has to pass it from his right hand to his left and then back again, a deft, practiced maneuver that prevents it from becoming entangled. The barrel of the gun sweeps across the horizon behind him. He is now facing almost completely backward. The world from this vantage point is a nauseating, surreal landscape rushing away from him. The ground seems to be unspooling from underneath his horse's tail. The pursuing soldiers, instead of getting closer, appear to be shrinking, an optical illusion caused by his own forward velocity. He has to fight against every instinct that is screaming at him to look forward, to see where he is going. A gopher hole, a sudden dip in the terrain, a loose rock, any of these could mean a catastrophic fall, a broken leg for Kala, and a swift death for them both. He must trust the horse. He must put his life entirely in the animal's senses, in Kala's ability to read the ground at a full gallop. This is the ultimate expression of the bond his uncle had spoken of all those years ago. One mind, one spirit, one body. He has given his eyes to the horse, so that he may use his own to aim. He sees the four riders clearly now, the corporal in the lead, his bay horse stretched out, its coat dark with sweat. Two others, slightly behind and to the corporal's left. A fourth rider, further back, struggling to keep pace. They are still coming on, their expressions a mixture of grim determination and now visible confusion. Weyekin raises the Winchester. This is the hardest part. The stock is a clumsy thing, designed to be braced against a shoulder that is facing forward.
He cannot seat it properly. He has to hold the rifle with his arms extended, a difficult and unstable firing stance. The recoil will be brutal, with no shoulder to absorb it. And the target is not stationary. It is bouncing and jinking, just as he is. To aim is to try and align three separate, erratically moving objects: himself, his horse, and his target. It is an impossible equation. But like the bow, he does not aim with his eyes alone. He aims with his entire body. He feels the rhythm of Kala's gallop, the up and down, the side-to-side sway. He feels the rhythm of the corporal's horse, matching it, anticipating its next bound. He lets his arms become shock absorbers, his elbows bent, his hands firm but not rigid. He is not fighting the motion, he is becoming part of it. He lays his cheek against the cold wood of the rifle stock, his eye aligning with the sights. The front sight, a simple brass bead, wavers wildly, dancing around the figure of the lead soldier. He breathes out, his body relaxing into the chaos. The world slows down. The thunder of the hooves fades to a dull roar. There is only the bead, the man, and the space between them.
The moment stretches, thinning until it is as translucent and fragile as a dragonfly's wing. Inside this bubble of heightened perception, time itself seems to warp and bend. For Weyekin, the frantic, bone-jarring gallop transforms into a slow, oscillating dance. He feels every sinew in Kala's body contract and release, every heave of the stallion's powerful lungs. The wind is no longer a roar, but a steady, pressing whisper against his cheek. He feels the weight of the Winchester in his hands, not as a burden, but as an extension of his will, its cold steel and warm wood humming with a deadly potential. His entire being is focused down the length of that barrel, a channel of intent connecting him across the 100 yards of vibrating, sun-bleached air to the man who is hunting him. The corporal's face is a clear, sharp image in his mind's eye. The dark mustache, the glint of sweat on his forehead, the determined set of his jaw. He is not just a uniform, he is a man. And in this stretched and silent moment, Weyekin feels a strange, sorrowful connection to him, a shared mortality hurtling across the plains. The brass bead of the front sight drifts. It floats over the corporal's head, dips below his horse's churning legs, sways from side to side. Weyekin does not fight it. He waits. He is listening to the rhythm of the world, the deep, underlying pulse of the chase. It is a song of 3 beats: the rise and fall of his own horse, the rise and fall of the soldier's horse, and the erratic tremble of his own arms. He knows he will not get a steady aim. The shot will not come from a place of stillness, but from a point of convergence, a fleeting instant where the chaotic lines of motion intersect. It is a moment he can only feel, not predict. His finger rests on the trigger, the curved metal cool against his skin. He applies the slightest pressure, taking up the slack, feeling the subtle click as the mechanism engages. He is ready. He is waiting for the world to tell him when. For Corporal O'Malley, the Indian rider has become a terrifying enigma. The man is now fully facing him, galloping away at full speed. The black bore of the rifle is a menacing eye, staring directly at him. It's a trick. It has to be. A bluff. No one can shoot accurately like that. It's impossible. O'Malley grips his own carbine tighter, his knuckles white. He is a trained marksman, a veteran. He has the superior position, the steadier mount, the more accurate weapon for this kind of work. He should be the one in control. Yet, A cold knot of dread is tightening in his stomach. The sheer audacity, the unnatural posture of the warrior has unnerved him. It is a violation of the rules of combat, of the laws of physics. He raises his carbine, trying to draw a bead, but the target is a blur of motion, a bucking, twisting silhouette against the blinding sun. He fires. The shot goes wide, the puff of smoke instantly whipped away by the wind. The sound of O'Malley's shot is the signal Weyekin was waiting for. It is the final beat in the chaotic rhythm. In that instant, as the soldier is momentarily blinded by his own muzzle flash and fighting the recoil of his carbine, a window opens. The brass bead of Weyekin's sight drifts across the corporal's chest, and for a fraction of a second it holds steady. It is an illusion of stillness in a world of violent motion, a moment of perfect, impossible balance. Now, Weyekin's finger squeezes the trigger. The Winchester cracks, a sound sharper and flatter than the deeper boom of the army carbine. The recoil is a vicious, solid punch, not to his shoulder, but to his entire upper body. It slams through his arms and chest, a physical shock that threatens to throw him from the horse. But his legs, his roots, hold fast. His core muscles absorb the blow. He keeps his seat. Across the intervening space, Corporal O'Malley feels as if he has been struck by a blacksmith's hammer. He doesn't hear the bullet's impact over the sound of his own horse's hooves and the ringing in his ears. He feels it, a massive, stunning force that lifts him upward and backward in the saddle. A look of profound, bewildered surprise flashes across his face. His mouth opens, but no sound comes out. The carbine slips from his numb fingers. He hangs there for a moment, a puppet with its strings cut. And then he topples sideways, a limp weight, falling from his horse. He hits the ground in a sickening, tumbling heap of blue wool and dust, his forward momentum carrying him for several yards before he comes to a stop, a broken shape left behind by the chase. The remaining 3 soldiers react with a mixture of shock and disbelief. They see their leader simply vanish from his saddle. One of them pulls his horse up short, his face a mask of horror. Another shouts a curse, his voice thin and lost in the wind. The spell is broken. The disciplined pursuit has dissolved into confusion and fear. This was not a man they were hunting. It was something else, a Weyekin, a spirit, a being who operated by a different set of rules. The 3rd soldier, a young private, overcome with panic, fires his carbine wildly in Weyekin's direction and then wheels his horse around, fleeing back toward the battlefield, as if the devil himself was on his heels. The other 2 hesitate for a moment and then follow him, their only thought to get away from the impossible horseman who could kill without looking. The relentless pounding pursuit, the drumbeat of death that had been hounding Weyekin across the valley, ceases. It is replaced by a sudden, ringing silence. Weyekin stays in his twisted position for a few moments longer, his rifle still pointed at the retreating shapes of the soldiers. He watches them go, making sure they are not regrouping, not turning back. Then slowly, painfully, the moment stretches, thinning until it is as translucent and fragile as a dragonfly's wing. Inside this bubble of heightened perception, time itself seems to warp and bend. For Weyekin, the frantic, bone-jarring gallop transforms into a slow, oscillating dance. He feels every sinew in Kala's body contract and release, every heave of the stallion's powerful lungs. The wind is no longer a roar, but a steady, pressing whisper against his cheek. He feels the weight of the Winchester in his hands, not as a burden, but as an extension of his will, its cold steel and warm wood humming with a deadly potential. His entire being is focused down the length of that barrel, a channel of intent connecting him across the 100 yards of vibrating, sun-bleached air to the man who is hunting him. The corporal's face is a clear, sharp image in his mind's eye. The dark mustache, the glint of sweat on his forehead, the determined set of his jaw. He is not just a uniform, he is a man. And in this stretched and silent moment, Weyekin feels a strange, sorrowful connection to him, a shared mortality hurtling across the plains. The brass bead of the front sight drifts. It floats over the corporal's head, dips below his horse's churning legs, sways from side to side. Weyekin does not fight it. He waits. He is listening to the rhythm of the world, the deep underlying pulse of the chase. It is a song of 3 beats, the rise and fall of his own horse, the rise and fall of the soldier's horse, and the erratic tremble of his own arms. He knows he will not get a steady aim. The shot will not come from a place of stillness, but from a point of convergence, a fleeting instant where the chaotic lines of motion intersect. It is a moment he can only feel, not predict. His finger rests on the trigger, the curved metal cool against his skin. He applies the slightest pressure, taking up the slack, feeling the subtle click as the mechanism engages. He is ready. He is waiting for the world to tell him when. For Corporal O'Malley, the Indian rider has become a terrifying enigma. The man is now fully facing him, galloping away at full speed. The black bore of the rifle is a menacing eye, staring directly at him. It's a trick. It has to be. A bluff. No one can shoot accurately like that. It's impossible. O'Malley grips his own carbine tighter, his knuckles white. He is a trained marksman, a veteran. He has the superior position, the steadier mount, the more accurate weapon for this kind of work. He should be the one in control. Yet a cold knot of dread is tightening in his stomach. The sheer audacity, the unnatural posture of the warrior has unnerved him. It is a violation of the rules of combat, of the laws of physics. He raises his... The silence that descends is heavier and more profound than the preceding chaos. It is a silence filled with the ghosts of sound, the echo of rifle fire, the memory of screams, the phantom thunder of pursuing hooves. Weyekin lets Ka'ala walk, the stallion's head hung low, his breath coming in great, trembling sighs. The adrenaline that had sharpened Weyekin's senses to a supernatural edge begins to recede, leaving behind a deep, bone-weary exhaustion and a dull, throbbing ache in every muscle. He looks back, not over his shoulder, but by turning the stallion in a slow, wide circle. Far in the distance, the place of the battle is marked by a column of greasy black smoke rising into the otherwise pristine blue sky. It is a funeral pyre for his people, for the life they knew, for the fragile peace they had so desperately sought. A profound sadness, cold and heavy as a river stone, settles in his chest. He had survived. He had won his personal battle. But what of the war? What of his family? 2 moons? The chief's looking-glass and Joseph? The women and children he had seen cut down in the dawn light? He does not know. To return to the battlefield now would be madness. The army was still there, and he was one man, with a spent horse and a handful of cartridges. His duty now was to survive, to find the others who had escaped, to regroup. The chiefs, if they had made it out, would lead the survivors toward the Lolo Trail, toward the sanctuary they hoped to find in the land of the Crow people, or perhaps beyond, in the grandmother's country, Canada. He must trust in their wisdom, in the resilience of the Nimipu. He turns Ka'ala's head east, away from the Wallowa,
away from home, and continues the long flight. The sun climbs higher, beating down on the valley, and the world is quiet save for the creak of Ka'ala's tired muscles and the soft scuff of his hooves on the dry earth. For hours he rides through a landscape that is achingly beautiful and utterly empty. He is a solitary speck of life, a testament to a single, impossible act of skill and courage. The story of what happened in this valley will be told in two vastly different ways. In the official reports of the U.S. Army, the Battle of the Big Hole will be recorded as a victory, albeit a costly one. Colonel Gibbon's command would suffer heavy casualties from the fierce Nez Perce counterattack. The reports might mention a lone, troublesome brave who harassed their lines and was pursued by a cavalry detail. Corporal O'Malley's death would be noted, attributed to the chaos of a running fight, a lucky shot from a desperate fugitive. The true nature of the event, the sheer, unbelievable skill involved, would be lost, dismissed, or never even understood by men who could not conceive of such a thing being possible. To them, it was an anomaly, a fluke in the brutal arithmetic of war. But among the Nimipu, the story would be told differently. The survivors who witnessed Weyekin's charge, who saw him draw the fire of the soldiers, who watched him lead the cavalry on a hopeless chase into the open plains, would tell of it around their fires. The warriors who saw him twist like a spirit in the saddle, who heard the single sharp crack of his rifle echo across the valley, who watched the pursuit break and scatter in fear, they would ensure the story lived. It would become more than just a recounting of an event. It would become a legend. It would be a story told to children to teach them what it means to be Ninipu, to be one with the horse, to fight with a courage that transcends fear. The name Weyekin would be spoken with reverence, not for the man he killed, but for the skill he embodied, for the moment he reminded them all of the power that ran in their blood. The act itself, firing backward at a full gallop, would become a symbol of their unique form of resistance, a defiance that did not require them to stop, to surrender their momentum, to cease being who they were. It was a message that even in retreat, even while fleeing for their lives, they were still warriors. They could still strike back. As the sun begins its descent, casting long golden fingers of light across the land, Weyekin finds a small, hidden spring nestled in a copse of cottonwood trees. He dismounts, his legs trembling from fatigue. He leads Ka'ala to the water, letting the stallion drink his fill before taking any for himself. He washes the dust and sweat from his face, the cool water a balm on his raw nerves. He inspects Ka'ala, running his hands over the horse's powerful limbs, checking for injuries. The stallion is exhausted but unharmed. He takes out a small piece of dried deer meat from his pouch, his first food since the day before, and eats it slowly, mechanically, his mind still adrift. The fight for survival is not over. It is a long, long way to Canada. More battles, more hunger, more heartbreak lie ahead. The tragic end of the Nez Perce flight at the Battle of Bear Paw is still weeks in the future. But for now, in this quiet moment of reprieve, there is only the gentle sound of his horse drinking and the rustle of leaves in the evening breeze. He looks out from the trees at the vast, silent land. The story of that day is already written on the grass, carried on the wind. It is a story of tragedy and massacre, of incredible bravery and desperate resistance. And woven into it is the tale of a single warrior and his horse, of a lifetime of training culminating in one impossible moment. It is the story of how a Nez Perce rider, fleeing for his life, shot backward without turning around, and in doing so, fired a shot that would echo through generations. A testament to the enduring spirit of a people who, even when their backs were turned, were never, ever defeated.